Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report, Boilermaker fans, for this week's Purdue Report with Jake Dunn. On Saturday, Jake and I reacted to a disappointing Purdue loss to Minnesota. And on Friday, we will preview Saturday's game at Northwestern. But tonight, Jake, it's just going to be all about basketball because I believe that's both of our first love.
Yeah, for sure. So if football was a little better, maybe we'd spend a little more time on football. But I think everybody, including our listeners, is a little more excited for basketball season.
Basketball is my first love. Purdue basketball I cared about way before I cared about Purdue football. To me, when it comes to Purdue, it's always been about basketball going back to 1980. It goes that far back for me, Jake, and I don't know if I've ever been more excited about a basketball season than I am right now. I probably was in 1988, to be honest with you. But since then, 2 years ago, I knew a national championship was a possibility. But this team, not only do I think it's a possibility, I think this team's going to be fun to watch.
I would agree that a couple of years ago, people thought it was certainly a possibility to go to the Final Four in the national championship game and the ability to win a national championship. But I think this year it's kind of the expectation is for Purdue to go to the Final Four. They've broken that glass ceiling. They've gotten that monkey off their back now. So I think the expectations for, at the very least, for Purdue to get to the Final Four and certainly to advance the national championship game. So yeah, super excited for the season, and it's going to go by fast. So I gotta try to enjoy it while it lasts.
And it begins on Friday. And I know, Jake, it's a game that doesn't matter in the standings, but that doesn't mean it doesn't matter. I think it's a kind of game that can set expectations. You know that it's not going to be a game that if the game's on the line, they're probably going to do anything different. They're probably going to just they're more likely to accept the defeat in a game like this. But I think what we just want to see is a team that we know can compete with anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really interested to see kind of the depth of Purdue and just really see how good they are. So we've heard kind of all offseason how deep this team is and how good some of these pieces that'll be coming off the bench are. So just excited to see that with our own eyes and get to see that against a different team and a really good team in Kentucky.
And I think the good news reading about Kentucky's team is that they have about 12 guys, too, that they all think should be competing for playing time. So you're going to see a lot of different guys with them, too. So I think you're going to see a lot of interesting matchups. And, yeah, you're right. Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, you got Kaufman, Wren. We know we're going to get three of the best players in the country doing at what they do. But you're right. It's the rest of those guys. It's going to be very curious to see what we get from those guys. Is there a player or two in particular you're most curious about?
Yeah, I think I'm really excited to see a full season of Daniel Jacobson. I think that was a pretty not forgotten about, but a pretty underrated piece of Purdue's team last year. Obviously, he gets hurt, a minute into the second game of the year. So I think he would have solved maybe not all the problems, but definitely would have helped, with rebounding and defense, especially in the paint. That's something that Purdue really struggled with last year. So I think they may not have made that much of a difference, but I think it would have been at least really good experience for this year's team if he had played last year and stayed healthy. But I'd say him, and then
definitely hold on before we move on. Definitely would have made a difference. I don't know what kind of difference it would have made. But having Jacobson all year went from having a position, I mean, he was a newcomer, don't get me wrong, but where you're pretty solid, to that position kind of being a weakness. So it would have made a big difference if he'd played all year.
Yeah, what I meant was in the end result of the season, they may still have lost to Houston in the Sweet 16 if he was healthy.
Would have been a higher seed though.
Could be, yeah, could be. but obviously still did pretty well. Better than most teams. There's only 15 other teams that really did better. Right? It's really 8 teams that only did better than Purdue.
You're right, and none
So
of those teams lost the 2-time National Player of the Year the year before.
Daniel Jacobson got to redshirt, got to get stronger and really make sure he's healthy before he gets back out there this season. He's up to 250 some pounds, so he's put on a good amount of good weight and can put on some good muscle. So excited to see him play. I'd say the other guy, Jakari Harris. I think everybody's kind of focusing on CJ Cox in terms of a breakout player, but Jakari Harris seems like he's really transformed his body as well, and I think he'll be a pretty integral piece, especially on defense. But I think he stepped up his offensive game as well. So those are probably the two guys I'm most excited about. Don't get me wrong, I'm still excited about Oscar Clough and Omer Meyer as well, but I think Jacobson and Jakari Harris are the two that I'm most excited for.
Yeah, Omer Meyer, that's definitely number one for me. All the things that we've heard about him, the highlights that we've seen, it'll be nice to see how he fits in. And you did mention it was such a position of need, such an area of need with rebounding. So Oscar Clough going to be interesting to see what he can do as well. But Oscar and Omer going to be cool. The one I'm interested in is Jack Benter because he's from Brownstown. I know his dad well, and a guy who's not expected to be a contributor this year. If he is, that means he's really good.
Yeah, I excited to see how he fits into this team as well. We talked about before, but him playing the 4 was a spot that I didn't really think he'd get a whole lot of playing time in, especially this year. But the staff is really impressed with him. He's developed his body as well from a shooting perspective. But I think also I've heard he's a really good passer. Really has a really high basketball IQ. So I think he has a lot to bring. And Bickoff and Rand is out, or could probably even play some of the 3 spot as well. But excited for him too.
And Jake, I think we all knew this was coming, but it's officially official. For the first time in program history, Purdue is number 1 to start the season in the AP poll. Purdue got 35 of the 51 first place votes. Houston second, Florida, the reigning national champion, third. UConn, who won the 2 previous, is fourth. Kentucky is ninth. I know we were expecting it, Jake, but pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And that officially marks the 4th time in 5 years that Purdue has reached the number 1 spot in the AP poll. Makes it 59 consecutive weeks ranked, which is the 3rd longest active streak in the country. And there's only a handful of teams that, in the past, 5 years have accomplished that, 4 time in 5 years being ranked number 1. So, and the schools in that group are pretty good schools. So UConn and Gonzaga, Duke is in there. So there's some really good schools that are in there. Schools that would be considered blue bloods. So it's nice to see that Purdue has been able to sustain its success. Kind of has its name in there with some of these really historic programs.
Some other teams that Purdue plays this year that are ranked: Michigan is ranked 7th, Kentucky 9th, as I mentioned. Texas Tech is 10th. UCLA is 12th. Alabama is ranked 15th. Illinois is 17th. Auburn is 20th. Michigan State is 22nd. Wisconsin is 24th. And everyone will be interested to know that Indiana got 1 vote. Yeah. Purdue, 1,485. IU, 1.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know who that 1 voter was that included IU in there. So
one more time. This is for Grant Schaus and Mike Hutzel. 1,485 to 1. So I hope that registered with our IU guys, Jake.
Some other Big Ten teams that are receiving votes: Oregon received 98 votes. Ohio State was 23, USC was 10, Washington was 7, and Iowa was 6. A good amount of Big Ten teams here receiving ranked or receiving votes. in this preseason AP poll. So should be a really good year for the conference, and Purdue should definitely be battle tested by the time March comes around.
I'll be shocked if Oregon's not in the top 15 by the end of the year.
Same here. I think they've got a
Continuity
really good
has
roster.
a lot to do. Continuity has a lot to do with it in college basketball, and I know the thing to do is to go out and get all the top talented guys as you can, but continuity is key. And man, Matt Painter has really got this thing going.
Yeah, absolutely. We hear the we hear the mantra every year that guards and seniors win you games, and March Purdue's got the best guard in the country, and has three of the best seniors in the country as well. Certainly the expectation, as we talked about earlier, is to make the national championship game and ultimately win it.
The road to the 2026 national championship begins on Friday in Rupp Arena. Not a better place to kick it off with a win. And it's the type of team that you love to cheer for. And you said the players want to do it for Matt Painter, and I'm sure that's true. They want to do it for themselves and their families, but they also want to do it for the best fans in college basketball. Cool. Jake, thank you so much. Can't wait. Let's talk about it real soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
Don't forget, everybody, Jake and I will be back on Friday to preview the Purdue Northwestern, where Purdue is going to snap their 12-game conference losing streak. Of course, I said that last week and the week before, so.
Yeah, I think you might be right this time.
I mean, we have Purdue podcast 3, 4, probably during this season, 5 times a week with the reactions to every game, previews for all the football games, Purdue Report every week. You're going to hear from Jake and myself an awful lot, so just go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any of the fun. We also have content for IU, the Pacers, the Colts, and high school football. High school basketball is coming up very soon. That is our specialty. So do us and yourselves a huge favor and just go subscribe. We're at YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, you name it, we're there. We're also on Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.